Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host, and we're broadcasting here from Las Cruces Studios on Las Cruces Channel. Over the past few weeks, I've been bringing in Hispanics that used to be Democrats and now are Republicans and having them tell their story. But another thing that I'd really like to highlight is that we have local businesses, and they've took a hit, a big hit, through this COVID-19 crisis. If you believe it's the true crisis, I don't necessarily believe it, but it has hurt a lot of businesses. Some of the businesses are going to survive. They say 60% won't. And I have a special guest on today, Scott Clark from Cruces Auto. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
You know, when I hear of a used car dealer, I think, geez, that's on the same par as a dentist. Not many people like used car dealers, but I've talked to a lot of people that have actually purchased cars from you, might have had some trouble, came back to you, you took care of the problem. So you got a very good reputation. Now it's a small lot, and we'll put up the address and everything throughout the show.
Sure.
But I understand that if a person wants a car, even though it's not on the lot, you can get it for them.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll get into the business end of it, but I'd like to get your background. Are you a Cruces resident? Were you born here?
No, I was actually born and raised in rural Indiana, a little town called Greensburg.
Okay.
Spent 18 years of my life there. And joined the military. And
thank you for your service.
Thank you. And the next 21 years lived abroad and all over the world.
Wow. Through the military?
Through the military.
Okay, okay. And now we talked a little bit before the show about the influence on your life, and of course it's all about Democrat and Republican. And,
sure.
And to me, I don't think there's much of a difference because good people are good people no matter what, as long as they know what the truth is. So you were telling me that your mom was a Democrat and your dad was a Republican. Could you elaborate on that?
Actually, as my mom and my mother and father both were Democrats.
Oh, okay, okay.
My grandfather was Republican.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and my mother and father, my mother really guided the values and the Democrat ideologies there.
A woman in the house usually does.
Right, and my father just had to follow along. My grandfather, being a Republican, I believe was one of the reasons that my mother was a Democrat. Because
now this was your mother's father?
It is.
Wow. Okay.
She had a little contempt for him,
okay.
I guess, going back to their household younger days. And
wow.
I had no idea
why.
Sure.
It's usually the other way around. It's usually
right.
if your politics is what can destroy
right.
a family. In this case, the family wasn't happy and the politics changed.
Yeah,
well, that's
exactly.
okay. But
exactly.
So your grandfather, have you been a Republican all your life?
I have,
okay.
and it was at the doing of my grandfather.
So you think a lot of your grandfather.
Absolutely, he was huge presence in my life. Had a lot of impact on me and the way I act and the way I communicate with people and treat people and all those values, all those core conservative type values that you have, caring about the fellow man and wanting to do good things for other people.
Can't do any better than that. And I understand that that's how you got started in the used car dealership.
It is, absolutely. My grandfather was a car salesman in a small little town, Greensburg. He knew everyone in town. He worked at a Buick, GMC, Pontiac dealership.
Okay.
It was he and one other gentleman that were the salesmen
okay.
there, and that's where I got my first car. But I hung out around him a lot on the car lot, and
okay.
got to see him interact with customers and the way he treated people and the way they treated him, and he had just a really good relationship and communicated well, and I watched that as a little guy.
Wow.
A lot, and that's what formed a lot of my...
It's good to have a mentor like that. Now, at Greensburg, Indiana, it doesn't seem like it's a real affluent area. Were you rich?
Right, no, absolutely not. No, we grew up in trailer houses. I was on farms a lot, worked in the farms, in cornfields, the hay fields.
So you labored.
Exactly. Sheared sheep. I've done everything.
Wow.
Probably the hardest job I ever had was shearing sheep.
I've seen it on TV, and I thought, I don't think I'd want to wrestle one of those monkeys around.
I got 50 cents a sheep every one I sheared.
That seems like a lot of work for 50 cents.
If I cut one, and it was a 10-cent deduction.
Oh my!
So,
okay, you had to be good with your shears.
Had to be good.
Were they electric?
They were. They
okay,
were electric.
I can't imagine manual shears. So, well, let's see. So You told me an interesting story about a milkshake in your mom. Tell me
Right.
that story.
Sure. Growing up, I was about 10 years old, and I just started mowing lawns, and I would shovel snow from driveways and
Me
things
too.
like that. And anything manual labor that I could do as a little guy, that's what I did. And I made some money. I'd made $5, I think I'd made, and my mother had a favorite milkshake shop downtown. It was about a mile from our house, and I could ride my bicycle down there and pick up a milkshake if I wanted to. But I'd made this $5, and I really wanted to treat my mother to a milkshake.
Nice.
And so I went down to the Compton Cow Palace and got us a couple milkshakes, and rode my bicycle back. Now they gave me a sack, a brown paper sack bag that I held on to while I rode my bike. So I had it wrapped around my handlebar there, and had 2 milkshakes in it. And I got about 2 homes away from our house on the street we lived on, and that bottom of that bag fell out, and those milkshakes fell all over the sidewalk, and I was just devastated.
Yeah.
And I had just spent my $5 on 2 milkshakes that are now laying on the ground. And that wasn't the real problem. The real issue was I really wanted to do this for my mom, and to show her how much I cared and things like that. So I walk into the home, and I'm teared up, and I just can't believe it happened. And my mom was lying on the couch taking a nap, and I walked in, and she heard me, and she looked at me, and she said, "Boy, what's wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, Mom, I was wanting to get you a milkshake, and I had and I did all that, and I said I spilt the milkshakes." And she looked at me and she says, "Boy, you better stop crying, and you better never ever cry over spilt milk.
Wow.
Get your tail into your bedroom."
Wow.
And that's what I did.
Well, it sounds like you had to toe that line right down the line.
Exactly.
Well, I had a very similar history with cutting lawns, shoveling snow. I'm from Philadelphia, so
Sure.
I know it. Make a few bucks. But let's talk about your job history.
Sure.
So how did that start out?
So
Besides lawn mowing and cutting?
Besides lawn mowing, cutting, my first real job was at a furniture store that was actually a front for a porta potty business.
How about that?
Which was bigger for the owner.
Okay.
Bigger business. So I didn't know it was an advertisement for a furniture mover, is
Okay.
what it was. And I was 18, and I had to drive a stick shift.
Okay.
And I couldn't understand why I needed to know how to drive a stick shift. Furniture trucks back then were mostly automatics.
Oh.
And but I go in, I interview, and that's one of the things he asked me. "Do you know how to drive a stick shift?" Never driven a stick shift before in my life. I
What'd you
said,
say?
"Yes, sir." So my dad told me to tell him, "Yes, sir."
Okay.
He wanted me to get that job pretty
Yeah.
bad. So I started the next day. He hires me, and he takes me into the back, and that's where they're putting together the bases for the porta potties.
Okay.
And they're building them in the back of the furniture.
These are like the
warehouse.
portable johns you
They
see
are,
out there?
but
Okay.
these were wooden plywood, made out of plywood and 2x4 runners.
Okay.
So he would pack these things onto a trailer and take them to events and things like that and set them up that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
I often wondered how that started out
Yeah.
with portable johns, but it makes sense.
Yeah. So in the empty lot across the street from him, we had a 5-ton sewage truck and
Okay.
with a tanker on the back, and that was the stick shift vehicle that I had to know how to drive.
So how did you make out with
So
stick
the
shift?
first day I got in, I said, "Well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to fail, one of the two." And I stuck her into gear and I grinded it. The guy that was with me, he says, "Do you know how to drive this?" I said, "Well, I kind of do." So he gave me a couple pointers, and off we went. And then that's how I learned to drive a stick.
Good. Gutsy move.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to jump out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So after that, how did you get involved in your career?
So what I did was my grandfather, again, saw me going kind of the wrong way in
We
my
all
life
do.
there at 18. I was kind of doing things I shouldn't have been doing, getting into things I should have been getting into. And he saw that, and he said, "Son, you need to get your tail into the military and get you some discipline and some rules and learn a trade." And I definitely followed what my grandfather told me.
Smart.
I always did what he told me and what he mentioned, what he would suggest.
Nice.
That was key. So joined the mill, went down to the recruiter. Actually went to the Army recruiter first. Was going to sign up there because my grandfather was in the Army in World War II.
Okay.
And he says, go join the Army. So I went to the Army. I didn't know about the Air Force, Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So I walked down the hall, and all services were in one hallway in one small building.
Okay.
And so I walked through, and first two were Air Force, Marines, and then Navy, and then Army all the way at the end. And so I go to the Army recruiter. He says, yeah, come on back tomorrow. Bring your birth certificate. Bring all this stuff, and we'll get you signed up.
Okay.
And as I'm walking out, the Air Force recruiter is standing in his doorway, smoking a cigarette, and he's got an Air Force video with the Falcons, the Thunderbirds show of flying in the background behind him. And
man.
He's opened up and he stops me right there. He goes, hey, were you back there with the Army? You can join the Army? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, have you thought about the Air Force? And that was it. And
so was it the show that
it was the
Thunderbirds?
show. He looks at it, he goes, you ever fly? I said, wow, no.
Exciting.
But that sounds very exciting.
Are you a pilot? Or
no.
Did you fly?
No,
okay.
Never flew.
Okay.
Joined right out of high school. The pilots back then and still today have to have a degree, and they go through either the Air Force Academy or
Makes sense.
another one, and then they go through flying schools
Sure.
and things like that. Yeah.
I did a little bit with single engine, just my wife got me some training, and
Sure.
it was fun.
Yeah.
But when I did the 45-degree turns, my stomach started getting squirrely, so it's
Right.
like, maybe I shouldn't be a pilot, So.
Right.
But it was fun.
So that's why I joined the Air Force.
Okay, and so you put how many years in the Air Force?
21 years and 2
Wow.
months.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Now, so how did your education play into this? Did you did you have a good education before you went in, or?
I just a high school diploma.
Okay.
Joined right out of high school. I actually delayed enlisted, so I joined halfway through my senior year of high school, and then didn't go into the Air Force until July of 1984 is when I joined, and went to basic training. I was actually in a different career for a little while, and initially my first assignment was the Philippines, where I met my future wife.
Okay. I did meet Sal.
yeah.
Yes.
And then from there, I retrained into what I spent most of my time in, which was directing airstrikes as a joint terminal attack controller.
So this sounds like drone work.
It is. We did a little bit of drone work toward the end of my career.
Okay.
Obviously, we didn't have drones in the beginning, back in the 80s. But what we would do is direct airstrikes onto enemy targets.
Wow.
And we would have to obviously be forward enough to see those targets and call them in and direct the aircraft in and drop bombs on the targets.
Wow. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll tie up your career and then get into the auto sales.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back after a short break.
Living with eczema can be distressing, and the condition is on the rise. 3A Research in Las Cruces is conducting an 8-week clinical trial and seeking participants ages 12 and older for a clinical research study on an investigational drug for eczema. Study-related exam and procedures at no cost. Compensation for time and travel up to $450 will be provided. Call us at 575-288-1646 to see if you qualify.
If your loved one has passed away due to COVID-19, pay close attention to this message. You could be entitled to a death benefit of over $300,000. The U.S. government has set up a fund to pay families relief if they've lost a loved one due to COVID-19. The compensation includes a death benefit and lost wages benefit. Time is limited, so we urge you to make a free phone call right now. There's no cost to you for this claim. That's 866-372-3669.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
suffer from rashes, dryness, flakiness, and thickness to the skin? 3A Research is conducting a trial of an investigational drug on plaque psoriasis. Subjects must be 18 years of age or older. This is an 8-week study. We will compensate you for your time and travel up to $225.
Enrolling participants now in Las Cruces. Contact our office at 575-288-1646 or visit our Facebook page at 3A Research or our website 3asites.com.
Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host. This is the Las Cruces studio, and this is on the Las Cruces channel. We're here with special guest Scott Clark, and Scott Clark is a used car dealer, and we like used car dealers, good used car dealers. But Scott, you have a full-time job, and could you tell me about that? Because this is actually what held you up during the COVID-19. Many of these businesses are not going to survive. I heard 60% are never going to come back.
Right.
So I'm so glad you're still in the business. You're a family-run business. I've met your wife, Sel, and your daughter, China, that work in the office. So it's a family-owned business, and I've heard so many good things about people that have purchased cars from you. Fair deal, good guy. So what business kept you afloat while the COVID hit?
Right. Well, it was my government contracting job that I actually came to Las Cruces for initially in 2010. And what we do is we work with the drone program at Holloman. So my background in the military applies to the drone program training for the student pilots.
Force, yeah.
Exactly. So we teach those guys how to engage and interact with forces and stuff on the ground.
I wonder just how much that you see kids with games.
Right.
And I just wonder how, I guess it's got to be similar.
Right.
But
it is very similar.
It's a deadly game.
It is.
When you're doing it.
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
But I hear you. So,
Yep.
Okay.
But that's kept me afloat, obviously, through these hard times.
Good.
For sure.
And I'm sure your
without
family.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Your family sticks with you. I've seen, the folks over at the dealership. It's a real clean operation, and the producer will put your show up. I mean your business up on the screen there. So tell me about the used car business. Now it's a small dealership.
Sure.
And we'll have the address. It's 1306 East Amador.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very small, nicely laid out, but there's not many cars on it. So if people want to get a car, can they order a car through you?
Absolutely. My daughter works with people one-on-one a lot, and she'll do personal buys.
Okay.
And what we have access to is the dealer network, and we can sit down and throw all the requirements in that the customer would like to have on their vehicles, all the needs that they would like to see, and that'll bring us up a whole list of vehicles that will match those requirements.
And you can import these vehicles for the customer?
And we can. We actually do a lot of the importing ourselves by flying and driving, or driving and driving. And, and we'll drop one car off and bring one car back and do a lot of those things.
Okay. And I've seen some pretty hot-looking cars on your lot there.
Right.
Like race cars, it looks like.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your wife, Sal, she works in the office. I thought she was an employee when I stopped by the other day.
Yeah.
And then I met China, very nice girl. Now, your wife is Filipino, and you met her during your time in the service?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, we met there in 1985. I was 19 and she was 18.
Okay.
We dated for about a year and a half. Neither one of us was ready to get married, and I left the Philippines really thinking we might not ever see each other again.
Oh, wow.
Just because of the distance. And
Sure.
then we hooked up, and she got to the United States in San Francisco in 1987 with her mother. During the Reagan years, he was handing out visas, and her mom had worked for the military for 28 years over there in the Philippines, the U.S. military.
How did you reconnect?
So my wife, I had given her my address of my mother's home back in the United States if she wanted to write me a letter or something.
Right.
And when she got to the United States, she wrote that letter, and my mom delivered that to me. I was up in Michigan at the time.
Nice,
and my mom
nice.
sent me that letter, and that's how we hooked up.
I mean, family-owned business, it's got to be great. It's got to be some friction, too, I guess, sometimes. But my gosh, having your family working with you, people you can trust.
Right.
Now, I understand that the used cars they're becoming very expensive.
They are.
Premium. Could you explain what's going on there and why aren't people buying new cars?
Right. Well, there's a shortage of both new and used cars.
Okay.
Obviously, the pandemic slowed production down of domestic-made cars and foreign-made cars as well.
Right.
And that's why you drive by a lot of the dealerships, the large dealerships, and you see it sparsely inventoried with different vehicles. And a lot of times people don't see the vehicle they want or need, especially when you only have a small selection.
Right.
So the prices of those cars have stayed the same because manufacturers have kept those the same.
The new cars.
The new cars. The used cars market is where the prices have gone through the roof.
Huh.
And that's because, again, the demand, supply and demand.
Sure.
There aren't as many used cars out there because they're buying them up. Consumers are buying them up.
Right.
And the prices are just being driven up by that.
Well, I guess the people have to realize, look, folks, and they can compare prices. It's not like you're trying to take anybody's money and get greedy, because I've seen your operation. It's not, you don't have gold hanging off the wall.
Exactly.
Okay, well, and what is your secret to success? Is it customer service? Is it, what is it?
It is. It's customer service. It's listening to the customer, communicating with the customer, and believing that speaking is the only way you communicate with customers is definitely how, it's really how a lot of the dealerships operate and the salesmen operate. And that's why myself, I don't drive onto a dealership to even discuss with a salesman the purchase of a vehicle, because it just scares the living daylights out of me to do that. And I hate them. I hate the.
You were telling me an interesting story where I've purchased used cars, and what I do is I'll go in and talk to the dealer or the salesman, and then he'll say, well, I'll go talk to my boss.
Right.
Well, do they really discuss the options of what you can get?
Most of the time they're talking about the game last night, what they did over the weekend.
So they know the game.
They know the game.
They're just making the customer sweat, I
They
guess.
are.
But you don't do it that way.
No, I don't do it that way. When I started selling cars for a Toyota dealership, I decided I was going to go at it my way or no way at all. And when the general sales manager interviewed me for the position, I told him exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people buy cars. I didn't want to sell cars to anyone. I wanted to help them buy cars. Wow. So when I relay that to a customer and tell them, hey, what if I work for you? You're paying my check anyways. This purchase of this vehicle is what's going to pay my check, not the guys inside.
Right.
So how about I work for you?
Wow.
And how about we go inside and we both team up and work against those guys?
Work against the dealership.
Exactly.
Boy, that's different. and I'm sure that's probably why you have such a good return.
It was.
And you know, it's word of mouth is where you're going to make out on your business. So you treat the customer right and they think they're getting a fair deal.
Absolutely.
And if they have a problem with the car, like I said, I've heard of people that said, oh yeah, I bought a car from there, I had a little trouble, I took it back, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taken care of.
Yeah, we even extend the timeline that the state mandates. 15 days or 500 miles is what the implied warranty for every vehicle that's sold as used vehicle in New Mexico. Once people come in and I tell them, hey, look, you know, if it's 20 days and it's 25 days and the engine blows up, I'm not going to leave you out in the cold.
Okay.
Come on back in, we'll get something worked out, and we'll get you taken care of.
It makes sense.
Exactly.
I mean, because word of mouth is how you're going to really make out.
Absolutely. As a small dealership, you have to. You'll die without that.
Sure. And I'm a strong believer in keeping things local. You've got these major dealers and the companies like even the Walmarts and things like that. They're national.
Right.
But we have our little operations, mom and pop shops that are falling apart, and COVID is destroying them.
Difficult.
So is the financing getting any better for because if the prices are going up for the used car, somebody can't afford it.
Right.
Can they get better financing?
The credit unions have done real well with the rates here in town.
That's another thing, local credit unions.
Farslett Credit Union does a great job. White Sands Federal Credit Union does a great job. We work with both of those extensively. And then we have other businesses in town. The Navy Federal, we work with them. We work with USAA. All those have really great rates right now and are helping people out to buy those overpriced, what they're seeing is overpriced used vehicles.
Okay. So we're winding down towards the end of the show, but it just seems like your grandfather was your greatest influence on you.
Absolutely.
He was a used car dealer. You learned early on that you want to treat the customer right.
Absolutely.
Which makes sense because unless you're going to be a fly-by-night and get lost. How long have you been here in Cruces?
10 years, so actually going on 11 years now.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, that's proof in itself right there that you're sticking around.
Exactly.
And
love it here.
Good work ethic. I think it's fantastic. Well, is there anything else you'd like to mention about the business or whatever? Well, let's see. Okay, so you're on 1306.
1306 East Amador.
And I know it's got like a green imitation grass.
Yeah, we have some turf out there out front to make it
Okay.
look nice, and
Okay.
And our sign's big yellow
Nice
Cruces,
big
Cruces
yellow
Auto.
sign. There it is, right on.
Yep.
Okay, so
And my daughter and my wife are there all the time, every day.
two beautiful
And,
ladies.
Yeah, they run the show there, and they have carte blanche over all the operations there, and
Okay.
and I have all the trust in the world in their abilities to do that, and
Okay.
we just love having people come in and helping them out and finding the car they want and getting them to a car they need and want and desire, not
Sure.
something that they don't want, not something they don't need or can afford. Let's get you something that's going to be right for you and your family and get you on your way.
I have a young fellow that I'm teaching how to drive my stick shift pickup truck, although second gear is getting a little rough now. I don't know what he's
Right.
doing to it.
Sure.
But, so when it comes time for him to get a vehicle, I want to come to your lot.
Great.
And see, I'd rather get an automatic for him and make it easier on him, but I want him, like you said, if you can drive a stick, you're good to go. That doesn't hold you back on certain jobs.
Yep.
And I wouldn't know what to advise. He's a pretty tall fellow, but I'm sure we can fit him into something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just
And
a
he's
regular
probably
cab.
going to have his eye on that sports car. I'm thinking, no.
Yeah.
Because he's not a man of means, so we're probably going to have to collect some money to help him
Sure,
get the car.
sure. A lot of people come in, and that's what they notice first. The sports cars and the cars that actually have all the bling on them.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, we got about 1 minute left to go, so
Sure.
if there's anything you'd like you to promote. Oh, one question I do have is, your wife is Filipino. I know there's a Filipino group of people in our community. I
Right.
know Teresa Baker. I think your wife, Sel, knows her.
Right.
Do you find that Filipino people come to your car lot?
We get a few, not many.
Okay.
There aren't many to start with, really, in Las Cruces.
Okay.
The Filipino American Association community here in town is a small community. They're chartered from the state, but it's a small, I think 100 maybe, 100 people.
I did a little research on
yeah.
Filipino folks. Wonderful people.
They
So-
are, absolutely, and we love having them.
Well, Scott, it's been great. I'm sorry it's been such a short show, but that means our conversation went well.
Great.
So, folks, if you want a good used car, it's Scott Clark at Cruces Auto, 1306 East Amador. Buy from a person you can trust. Okay, I'll see you next week, and I don't know what it's going to be about. It'll be interesting, though. Take care.